Hello and welcome to the Jesus-Centered Family Podcast, where we talk about ministry, parenting, and equipping every generation to intentionally live a Jesus-centered life. We are back after a short break, kind of long break from the holidays, kind of getting back into some rhythms, and I feel like we took a little too much time off because we're like halfway through February. If you can tell by the apparel here, we got Valentine's Day recording date here. But our crew looks a little bit different today. We have...
This might be a little cuter.
Well, no offense to Troy and Dane, but I'm very excited about the other two people in the other seats. Yes. We got Stacy and I here, and we've got some guests. We have two of our very own high school students from here at County Line. Girls, welcome to the Jesus-Centered Family Podcast.
Thanks.
Thanks,
JB.
You can say hi.
Hi,
there you go.
JB. Thanks, guys.
So Stacy came to me a little bit ago. We were kind of brainstorming some ideas for the podcast, and she had the idea to have you two on the podcast. Stacy, can you talk a little bit about how that came about?
Sure. So we actually, part of the break we've had is January was crazy weather for us, and we had a lot of days where there was no school around here because of the weather. And so these girls are both seniors in high school and are my interns this semester. They were my fifth graders back a few years ago, so I really, really like them. And had said, girls, I would love for you to listen to a couple of our previous episodes and give some input. If you were brought onto the podcast, what would be some things you would love to say to parents now that you're adults? You're still kids, but you're adults. I know.
Scary.
They're both 18. They're both 18. Yeah. They're adults.
They're still in high school.
They are.
Hey, give us
and
credit, Jamie.
They'll always be kids to me. But just asked them, like, if you could share with parents things from your perspective on some big things going on in teens' lives today, what would those things be? And asked them for a list of things. And so we hope to have them on a couple times here before they graduate and head off to college to impart some of their wisdom and knowledge to help encourage parents. That's one of our biggest things, is wanting to encourage and empower parents. And I feel like these two ladies, I've known them since they were very young, have loved and felt an honor to be able to be around them and see them grow into the beautiful women that they are today. And I do feel like they both have had journeys that have not always been easy and have learned a lot and are very mature in what they've experienced. And so I just feel like they're a wealth of knowledge that can help parents sometimes when they're not sure how to navigate the hard stuff of parenting. So here they are.
Dang, high praise.
Yeah, she's going to make me cry.
Don't do that. You're on camera. All right. So Ava and Brooke, I don't care who starts, but tell us a little bit about yourselves. Who are you?
Well, I'm Ava. I am a senior at Leo High School, and I've gone to Leo my whole life. I'm pretty weird, a little crazy, kind of loud. I don't know. There's just a lot about me.
Okay. Cool. Brooke, who are you?
I'm Brooke. I'm also a senior at Leo. Have gone to Leo forever. I'm a little quieter than Ava. I've gotten louder, but still quieter. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I want to know a little bit about your story. So it doesn't have to be a 20-minute long version, but tell us about your story, your faith journey, kind of where you came from, all that.
My faith journey has, I don't know, probably looked like the basic faith journey. I've grown up in a Christian household. But it wasn't a Christian household that was like, yes, Jesus, like we're praising Jesus every day. It was more like a lukewarm, just, yeah, we go to church, we are Christians, but I didn't actually have a faith until probably around 5th grade. I went to a summer camp and I felt Jesus and I felt this fire and I'm like, yes, I love God, I love Jesus and I want this and I crave this. And then I would get home and I'd be like, oh, it's gone. And then I feel like I just kept on this repetitive cycle of just summer camp and yes, this flame, this everything. And then I would go to youth group and like, yes, this flame. And then I would go home and be like, oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
But then I feel like around high school, I got baptized freshman year. I went to summer camp and then I got baptized that summer camp. I'm like, yes. And then I got home and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is done. Like I'm ready to live for Jesus. I have this craving. I have this inkling for Jesus. And so my story, I don't know. I love Jesus, but I'm also not, I definitely have not stayed on the straight and narrow, and I've definitely made mistakes, and I've definitely, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Sounds pretty authentic to what we probably all could say too.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we have that conversation a lot on like, hey, you're going to be really excited about Jesus after this week. And then you're going to go home and you're not going to be as excited. You got to keep pushing through. I think you've experienced some of that, and like the realness of what life is, where you have that emotion and then you come off of it and the emotion is gone, but then the faith is still there, and you got to figure out how do you marry those two together.
Yep.
Cool. Brooke, what's your story?
I started coming to County Line when I was in preschool, because I came to preschool here, and then I kind of went to my parents and I was like, why don't we start going to church there? Just
As a preschooler?
yeah, I guess so.
Nice.
That's what I've been told.
I love that.
That's a cool story.
But yeah, we
Those are
started
like the
coming.
stories that like the staff hears about, and
Yeah.
Stacy like texts everybody. She's like, "You would not believe this."
I'd text right now, but my phone's busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started coming to church here, and then I just kept going to kids ministry and just kept learning more about that. And then I think before 4th grade is when I got baptized. So I think it was probably a little too early, but it did, like, I just claimed my faith as my own after that. At least tried to.
Why do you feel like it was early?
I think I might have just like liked the idea of it and not necessarily understood the full concept.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
After that, started going through high school, started getting like the harder times where it was harder to like fully stay engaged with God. But I think now I'm in a better place with him, and I've more reconnected with him. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a wild card question that I didn't give you, but what do you guys like to do for fun? Like when you're not at school or at church or whatever, what do you do for fun?
I actually don't like this question at all because everyone's like, what's your hobbies? What do you like to do? But personally, I like work a lot and I spend a lot of my time working. But when I'm not working, I like to hang out with my friends.
Okay.
One of my friends, Claire, she's awesome. Just hanging out with other people.
Cool. Brooke, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, outside of school, I dance. But other than that, when I'm not at dance, I try to spend the most time with my friends as possible. But, yeah, just playing.
And you're like legit
games.
dance. It's not just like,
Yeah.
I like to turn music on in my room and dance.
Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of dance that you do? Like tap,
The
ballet, all
Macarena.
those kinds of things. Like, what is the dance that you?
I think hip-hop's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just
Cool.
fun.
I've seen her dance before, and it's very good.
Hip hop
Thank you.
seems like the one of our kids, one of my sons is like the most hyper, and like my wife is always like, man, we should put him in like a hip hop class because I think he'd
Yeah.
be good at it, and I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not our dances in our family, not in our bones. All right, so we know anxiety is a really big deal. We've talked about that on the podcast. My wife's a mental health counselor, so like it's very apparent in my life. I've dealt with anxiety a little bit personally, and all research shows, like no matter who you're looking at research-wise, it talks about how big of a deal anxiety is in our culture right now. So I want to know from you guys, like from your perspective, how big of a deal is anxiety in teenagers?
I feel like teenagers nowadays, I don't know, it's a different, I'm not saying like, oh, like you guys grew up a long time ago, but I feel like nowadays, like social media and everything else has created this, I don't know, this upbringing of anxiety. And I feel like it's just, I don't know if there's like a big just abundance of anxiety nowadays, but I just feel like there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
I personally don't struggle with it that much, but I know that a lot of people do. And it's, I don't know if it's my personality. It's like, I don't really, I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, just because everybody else, or, like, your generation has a issue with it doesn't mean, like,
Right.
you're weird because you don't. Like,
I mean, I am.
yeah.
She told us that right from the
She
beginning.
did. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, with the social media, like, we didn't have that growing up. Like, it was just starting to be a thing, like, when I was graduating high school. So, for an entire, lifetime of people, like, we didn't have it. And so you guys just have grown up, one of the names that they call your generation is screeners, because like you've grown up with screens. Like my 2-year-old knows how to work an iPhone. Like she knows how to swipe and do all the things. And almost from birth, she did. It's just, they just observe it and see it. And like something we had to learn. Like I was kind of anti-smartphone for a while. I was like, nope, not doing it. Brooke, what about you? Oh, sorry. Were you
No.
going to say something?
Well, I heard this statement, and it was more, I think, aimed towards probably the older generations. but that a lot of times the word anxiety is used when it's not necessarily anxiety. Like there is still being nervous, there's still being scared, and that there has to be some lines drawn about where anxiety actually starts, and then other emotions that are authentic and real, but aren't as intense as what anxiety can be. And so I feel like, I mean, not experience anxiety at that level, but you certainly have all those other emotions that, you know, where the fine line gets drawn, who really knows, but that you certainly experience those. And so you still can empathize with those people.
Yeah. Brooke, what do you think about the problem of anxiety among teenagers?
I think a lot of people that I've talked to, like, I think if you ask anybody, they've dealt with it at some point. Like, it's not necessarily a constant thing or like a permanent thing, but at some point they've dealt with it. And so I think it's just like, and like you said, like people experience it at different levels. Like it just kind of depends on what they consider their anxiety to look like.
I've actually heard it described as like our entire society has a low hum of anxiety in it. And like, I think that's a lot to do with like the social media, the screen, I mean, just constantly being connected and like, there's just always some level. Like I read in the mornings and I'm currently trying to read more, and I have my phone sitting next to me just cause like when I get ready, I bring it with me. And so like when I hear it buzz in the morning, I like intentionally try to not check it. Like I'm like, all right, I need to finish this page. And it's like, I can feel myself just be like, I need to look, I need to see, like, what if it's important? What if I need to look at it? Like, but it's just, that's just that low hum of anxiety that everybody deals with. Yeah. Brooke, we're going to stay with you. What do you think is the source or like the root cause of anxiety?
I think what I've seen like personally and then with my friends, it's a lot of just like expectations, like whether it's from your parents or like just society in general. I think just the expectation, not just to be perfect, but like to constantly be the best that you can be. And it's like sometimes I can't give the best that I am like in certain situations. So it's like trying to live up to those expectations.
Can you repeat that again? That was awesome.
Just
that you said sometimes I can't be the best that I can be or something like that.
Like I can't give 100% of what I am all the time.
Yeah. That's super good.
Thanks.
Ava, what do you think? What's the root source of anxiety?
This is me with a basic answer, but I'm going to go with social media. But then also, I put down COVID because I feel like 4 years ago in our generation, we were just all just cooped up and we didn't have anybody to talk to. And so we stuck with social media. And so that's how we communicated. That's how but then if that's taken away, like, who are we? What are we? How? I don't know. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, COVID really like created TikTok and Reels and like, before that, like it wasn't, but like we were literally just sitting at home. Like I downloaded TikTok, didn't even create an account, but was just like, just scrolling for hours. And it's like, what the heck? Like it came out of nowhere almost. Yeah. So I don't think that's a basic answer. I think that's legit. Stacey, do you have anything to add on that one?
I think they both nailed it with the expectations, society, family, whatever. And exactly what Brooke said, like we aren't intended to be perfect. There's only one person that's ever been perfect. And I've had to have that conversation with my own kids. Like I've held myself to that. And I know that I'm very hard on myself. And when I see that happening in my kids, I hate that for them. Like you don't have to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. I forgive you. You need to forgive yourself. And I think that forgiveness is not extended very often in our society. And I think that that's why kids, because everything is documented, man, am I so glad I didn't live in the times when everything I did could and would be documented. But that's the hard part of maintaining that idea of perfection, is out of not wanting to be, I mean, when something does go wrong, how many times is it replayed over and over on a reel or on TV? Like your imperfections are what people are looking for, and we all have them.
All right. So, girls, do you think overall parents have a role to play in the trend of anxiety? Now, note, we're not talking about you specifically. We're talking in general. So don't throw your parents under the bus here. But do you think parents in general play a role in that trend?
Definitely. My parents, great, love them. But I think parents...
the big but.
I think parents, as Brooke was saying earlier, I think they just put this expectation of us just to be amazing. I mean, if I was a parent, I would want my kid to be the best they could be too, which I understand. But I feel like as kids, like that's all we want is perfection, and we just want to be everything that our parents want for us. And I feel like that just puts a new level of anxiety on us. And I don't know what's different about our generations, but because I know everybody's had parents and everybody's grown up with the expectations.
Yeah.
But I feel like just the expectation of performing well and just doing the best you can obviously causes something.
Yeah, for sure. Brooke, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I would say the same thing, like all the expectations and just what they expect of you. That's expectations. I don't know what I'm saying, but
It's all right.
like personally, my parents have never been super like, you need to do this and you need to do this. Like with me, it's been just fully in my own head about things.
Very intrinsically driven.
Yeah.
Even when she was in 5th grade.
But like I've just seen it within my friends and other people. It's just like they expect so much of you that you're trying to live up to those, and it's the stress. Like
Yeah. Like even this morning, I was talking to my first grader who's 7, and he pulled a paper out of his folder, and he got a little confused. He goes, 16 out of 14. He just like misread it. I'm like, I mean, 16 out of 14 is great. Good job. But like he was bummed that he missed 2. And like, I'm like, dude, you're in first grade. It doesn't even matter. Like you're going to get an E or an M or something. Like it doesn't matter. But like we really try to like let them know like it's okay to miss one. Like maybe you should miss 2 and that might help. But like it's hard so speaking from the parent perspective, it's hard to balance that like expectation like and like pushing towards success and like putting too much on and be like, hey, like you got to be perfect. And sometimes I think it does come across as you got to be perfect. But I don't know if it's always intended. I think sometimes it is. Like there are parents that really want perfection. Yeah. And I think I probably am one of those that like really desire it, but trying to build that in my kids, like it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah. Like you don't have to have straight A+. That's okay.
And it's hard too when you have, more than one child, and this one is so driven on their own, has a lot of intrinsic motivation. And this one, you're like, I don't know where the motivation lives in that child.
Yeah.
I have to be the one moving the cart. And so trying to balance that and make things still communicate clearly between the two, because the one who's intrinsically motivated is probably picking up on the conversations I'm having with the one who I still haven't detected the motivation button in the body yet. Like they're the ones still picking up on the, come on, you can do this. You need to do this. You need to do that. Like it's hard to juggle that balance as a parent for sure.
Yeah. Brooke, do you see a solution to begin to reverse the trend of anxiety in our culture?
I don't know. I think that one's hard, but
I was hoping you had the answer for us. That
right. We could change the
Get
world.
this on the air and we can run with it.
I think for myself, like as I've matured a lot over the past couple of years, it's been like realizing that I'm not always going to be perfect. Like God is the only perfect thing in the world. So it's not like I can be the only other person to be perfect. Like nobody expects that of me. And just kind of like realizing how I deal with anxiety or stress or whatever. And it's like, because I don't always deal with it in the best ways. Like I am a bottler. Like I will just bottle it up till I explode. But like just realizing that when I hit my limit, that's when I need to just deal with it immediately. Like, and just kind of figure out how to deal with it for yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
So self-evaluation has been a big part of your... Brooke is a part of a leadership team that I'm on with. Well, she's not part of mine. I actually work with sophomore girls, but she was a part of my group just for last week. And I believe she's the one, we actually talked about this question, not knowing all this was going to happen. Nice. And I believe she's the one who said, not sweating the small stuff. Like you have to learn to let some of the things that you used to think were the big deals that now, aren't big deals and let them go. But that's important to have that healthy thought process of recognizing that. And I think that's a breakdown for a lot of people is they don't know how to navigate that.
Yeah. Ava, what do you think? What's the solution?
I don't know, JB. It's a really hard question, but I think honestly communicating, just as kids communicating to their parents or parents communicating to their kids. My mom just came up to me last week and she's like, Ava, like I just don't think you not like me right now. I'm like no, Mom, I honestly am feeling fine. Like I'm so sorry that you feel that way. But she's like, I just don't know. I'm like I'm so sorry, but I just didn't know where this was coming. Like that lack of communication is just not there. So I feel like just communicating either with your friends or with your parents and just letting them know, like we were just talking about this earlier, but just letting them know how you're feeling, because that could reduce so much anxiety, so much stress, and just like clarifying everything.
Yeah. it's cool to like that you received that in that way and not like, no, get away from me.
Yeah.
Like, just leave me alone.
Oh, I've definitely done that before.
Right,
but
right. We all have. But like to be able to acknowledge like, hey, I'm sorry if I made you feel that way.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. Like let's move forward. Like we're on good terms or whatever. Ava, what kind of a role do you think parents play in helping to reduce or eliminate anxiety in teenagers across the board?
Definitely just being there for your kids. I think the number one thing that I've learned from my parents is just showing up. We've all been going to like therapy and just we've been through some stuff, so we've been going to therapy.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have learned is just the 5 love languages. I know it's just it's a big thing. Honestly, it's a small thing, but it's a big thing when you think about it. And just knowing everybody's love languages and how they receive love, because everybody receives it differently. And I'm a words person, and my dad's definitely not a words person, so he might give me something or he might do something for me, but I just don't feel it that way.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just understanding your kids and just letting them know that you're there for them and just communicating with them.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot in marriage. Like premarital counseling, we talk about love language. Like I do a whole hour session on love languages, and it's good to know what your love languages are, but it's good to know if it's premarital counseling, your spouse's love language, but then like the people in your house, like whether it's your kids or grandparent, aunt, whatever, like because it may take some effort. Like if your love language isn't acts of service, but your mom receives acts of service as her, like you got to figure out how to do that. Like, hey, I'm going to intentionally do the dishes, or I'm going to intentionally vacuum the floors or whatever, because that's how she receives love. And like, yeah, you're right. Like if you're not figuring those things out, if you don't know those things, it's really hard to connect a lot of times.
And that intentionality alone is displaying the love.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not the way that you potentially, most likely, that's not probably the way that you feel love. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure. Brooke, what do you think parents' role is in all this?
I think communicating is probably like the biggest thing I've learned. Like when I get stressed out, like I said, like I will just keep it to myself. I won't talk about anything. But like if I walk in my mom's room and she's like, "Why are you stressed?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, and so then like she'll just break it down, and I'll realize that it's not as big as a deal as I thought it was. Or like even my friends too, they'll be like, "I can tell you're stressed. Like, what's going on?" I think just being able to like break things down like that and realize like what's the one thing that's really causing the rest of it to just pile up. Just like identifying what that is.
Yeah. I think Stacy had sent me a quote from you when you guys were talking, and it was about like withdrawal and like being quiet. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe. I think so.
So like parents seeing that you've kind of like withdrawn or you're kind of being quiet, similar to what you were just talking about, Ava. And you said something along the lines of withdrawal doesn't mean that we're not okay all the time. I mean, sometimes it might, but it instead means we may be processing something. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I think I can't remember exactly how I might have worded it before, but like when I do get quiet, like I think a lot of kids, like we get quiet and then parents will be like, "Oh, what's wrong with you? What are you dealing with?" It's like, honestly, I don't really know yet. Like just give me a little bit of time. I'll figure it out and then I'll come back to you or something. But like not necessarily always being like, "Well, what do you need right now?" And it's like, "Well, I just need a second. Like I just need to think." I think not necessarily always needing a solution right away.
Yeah. I think that's good. Like, hey, I don't know yet what I'm like, you know, I had a bad interaction with a friend, but like, I don't know like where that's at. Like I need to like just spend some time with it. I think that's really good. I think it's a mature, like way to process it and say, hey, like it's not, no, there's nothing wrong with me. And it's not, yes, everything's falling apart, but it's like, hold on, let me figure it out. And then we'll get back to it. Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was a really cool.
It really was, because I do feel like a lot of kids do withdraw because of the phone's accessibility or whatever device accessibility. Kids will try to get lost in that and not deal with what's ever going on. So the withdrawal or the I'm not even going to pay attention to my issues is where parents get a little worried. And so continual withdrawal doesn't really address any issues. And you're saying not always is that the situation. Sometimes I'm withdrawing because I am processing. And parents being able to determine the difference, I think, is going to be important. The communication piece of that, again, is going to be important. So I think you've nailed all that. Yeah. A+ so far.
All right. What do you guys want parents to know about teenagers and the struggles that they face with anxiety? Like if you could just broadcast to all parents. I mean, we have millions of listeners all around the world. What do you want those parents
We
to
will
know?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I know I've been talking about social media a lot, and I'm sorry for any kids listening to this because you're not going to like it. But I would just recommend not allowing your kids to get social media just because of the comparison aspects of things. And your kids are going to be like, Mom, Dad, like, that's how we communicate. Get their phone number. Like, you can try harder. Like, you can communicate harder. I can promise you
If
that.
I could count the number of times that I've just heard from our students of, I just like texting through Snapchats, it's the best way to do it. I'm like, yeah, but your phone still has a messenger app.
Right. Yeah, of course. And then Snapchat deletes, and then you don't know what they're sending, and it's very mysterious, and there's a lot that can go on. So I would just say deny that right to your child. I know they're going to hate you, but honestly, coming from me and just what I've experienced, I feel like I've created a lot of body issues and a lot of body image issues just off of comparison, and I feel like that could have been avoided. I'm sure I would still have it, but I feel like it could have been dialed down if I wouldn't have had social media.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing that from you because there's a guy I follow on social media, and that is like what he's screaming from the rooftops, like
From his social media account.
yes,
Go on.
yes, from his social media account. But that is exactly what he's saying. Like, do not give your children access to.
Yeah.
So to hear this 18-year-old kid saying the same thing that this older, more seasoned,
Wise.
right, saying the same thing, like, that's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful coming from you.
Yeah, we tell our kids, like, just the other day we had a conversation because they're on YouTube, and what they're scrolling on YouTube is the same stuff that we see on Instagram Reels. I'm like, I don't love that. Like, I know the stuff that comes up for me, and so we're like, hey, we're gonna be the strictest parents when it comes to screens. Like, I promise you. Look at all your friends. We will be the most strict, but we're pretty lenient in a lot of other ways. And so, like, I mean, I hope we stay strong. We've talked to you guys a lot. We've talked to some other parents. Like, yeah, I think you're dead on. Like, I'm like, nope, you're not getting a phone till you're 16. And for right now, my kids are okay with it.
Yeah.
They're approaching that, and they're okay with it.
Yeah.
So, Brooke, what do you think?
I think back to the communication, like, I think has to be an understanding from both sides. Like, the parents have to be understanding of when the kid just needs a second to, like, process, or, like, just being there when they need them. But I think the kids also have to have some kind of understanding. Like, I think I shared this last week too. Like, kids I heard a thing that said, like, it's your parents' first time going through life too. Like, you have to realize that as a kid. Like, I think as I've matured, I've started to notice that, like, when my parents will deal with me and I'm like, well, I don't understand why they did that. It's like, well, it's their first time dealing with it too. Like, it's not just mine. So I think just, like, having conversations where you're like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing either as a parent. Like, I think just the understanding of both sides is important.
Yeah, I love that line. It's their first time going through life too.
Yeah.
Like, soak that in.
Let's put on a shirt.
And even
Let's
if it's
do
your
it.
third kid, because none of your children are the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
So what worked for kid 1 is completely out the window for kid 2.
Yeah, your kids aren't the same. Their friend groups aren't the same. Their situations are. I mean, it's all.
Society's not the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
I mean, especially you. You've got
Oh my word.
fully adult children and, like,
Yeah.
fully
Even from
not
child
adult.
1 to child 3, which is just 6.5 years apart. Like, really, that 6.5 years is when the cell phone went from, like, you slid it up and you hit the A 3 times to get the C to a full-on
glory
computer.
days, I guess.
I know. Like, in 6.5 years from my oldest to my third child, just astronomical amounts of growth, but it just in technology.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay on top of that.
Yeah. No, I'm actually thankful for, like, we were married before all that stuff happened, and then we had kids after it was all there. I wish we could have kids when it wasn't there, but like, they didn't have to, like, navigate the growth of it, and we didn't have to navigate that as parents either.
Yeah.
It's so much. Okay. What have you learned about yourself, specifically in the area of anxiety? I don't care who goes first.
I can't. I mean, I think, like I said earlier, like, I've realized how much I bottle things up and, like, how I deal with it, and just realizing, like, when I need a second, and, like, everything ties together, but like, just kind of realizing how I deal with things, and then who I can reach out to, and like, what exactly I need to do when I get stressed or when I get anxious and everything like that.
Yeah. Ava, what about you?
Yeah. Well, if you ask my parents this question, they'll probably have a different answer. But I feel like I've just learned how to communicate. My mom will be like, Ava's so snappy and she's just so overwhelming right now. I'm like, okay, I am. But I also had a really rough day and I just had a lot going on. And I just feel like I've learned to just, I don't know if to shut down, but I've learned to like analyze myself, and I've learned to heal and just to work through things instead of just exploding. And I'm still trying, Mom, but I'm trying to work on it. And I just have learned to just soak it in, calm down. I might explode, but you need to apologize after you explode, or you need to just work through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you say explode, do you mean like yell at people, or like you just like explode with like your emotions and your words? And
It's both, JB.
Yeah.
I have a lot of emotions,
Yeah.
and sometimes my little brother, sometimes he makes me mad.
I can't imagine that.
Little brothers are goofy. Anyway, yeah. With my mom, I think I snap on her sometimes just because we have differing opinions sometimes on different things. And so it's just like, Mom, why did you do that? Why did you do that? I don't understand. And then I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm really sorry. So just taking it back, absorbing it, and then communicating with that person and just making sure you're both on the same page.
Yeah. I think it's cool hearing both of your responses. Like, you can see the common threads. Like, Ava, you're more like outward, like, hey, I just kind of vomit my words sometimes. And Brooke, you're like, I internalize everything. I just like, and you can see how, like, even within families, like sometimes families have that. Unfortunately, all 4 of my children are loud and have a lot of words. But it's hard to navigate as parents, like how to, interact with that. And I'm sure your parents are different than you, at least in some ways. Like, you might be similar to one parent, but it's cool to hear, like, there's like common threads in both of your responses and stories. And I don't think that was necessarily intentional. Like, you didn't like, I'm going to go this direction. It was just like, that's who you are,
Right?
how you analyze and process things.
Yep. And I think too, your family is the space that you need to be able to be the ugliest, and then go back and ask for grace later, because they do the unconditional love. Like, as much as I'm sure your parents are like, I really would be okay if they didn't bottle it up and not share with me, or didn't explode on me. On the flip side, they're probably so grateful that that when you finally do open up and when you finally do get calmed down, that I'm going to be the place that they know they can come back and we can reconvene and start over and work through that. No, there's nothing more that your parents would want than to be the safe space for you to do whichever way you need to do it, and then process past that. But it really is something that it means a lot, even though that may not be pretty in the moment. It's okay if it's ugly, but that you can resolve that, because it develops relationship even tighter with them too. So
what have you learned about God specifically relating to the area of anxiety? Ava, you want to start us?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like when I feel the most anxiety, it's when I feel the most alone. And it's like, I just feel like there's nobody here and I'm just alone. And I know that there's people there and I know that there's people around me. But I feel like there's one event that has created a hole in my heart. And it's just like, I can't, like, I need that hole to be filled. But I feel like God is just, he's been there the whole time, and he's always been there for me. And he's like, Ava, I'm here for you. I am your whole heart. Like, I filled it. And I just feel like God's unconditional love, and him knowing that he's loving me like forever, I feel like has just, I wouldn't say healed me, but it's comforted me. And it's just like, I know.
That's so good. Like, that picture of the hole in the heart, and like almost like God like holding the heart with the hole in it. Like, he didn't like just say, here. He didn't say, here, I'm putting that filling back in that hole. But he said, hey, I'm going to comfort you during that. That'll preach.
Yeah.
Brooke, what about you? What have you learned about God?
I think, like you said, like comforter, and just the way he fills the areas that I need. Like, when I'm afraid, then it's like, well, he has it planned for me. And when I am like just lonely, it's like, well, I'm here. Like, I think just filling those spots, like you said. But like, I think, well, one of the favorite verses I come back to is, I think it's 2 Corinthians 12:9-10. Like, my grace is sufficient for you, and like, for when I'm weak, I'm strong. Like, just reminding myself that when I do feel like I'm at my lowest, like, he's right there to bring me back up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
gosh, I'm so proud of that.
Are you
They're
crying?
gonna make me cry.
Are you crying? All right. How is your faith different today than it was when you were a freshman?
As a freshman, I feel like, again, I was just like, oh, those highs and lows, yes, church camp, whatever, which I'm not saying that my high school has also been just super steady. Sophomore year, my grandma passed away, and it was a very rough time for me, and I just did not fight for my relationship with God, and it was just like, I just let it just die out. And then I don't know what happened, but I just continued. I probably opened the Bible one day and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Or I heard a song. I'm like, yes, like worship is just my forte. I'm like, I just feel God. But I feel like my junior and senior year, like I have just been on fire for God. And it's just like I want to do something. I want to change the world. I want people to know. Sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Yeah. But I just feel like now that I'm a senior, it's like, okay, like life is short. I have 60 days left with my class. How can I make a difference? How can I let them know that they're loved? Or how can I change? I don't know. I told Sarah, I was talking to Sarah, I'm like, Sarah, like I want to change the world. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I want to. Yeah.
I see it. I see the fire.
Yep.
And I see it coming.
And the intentional pursuit that you have after Christ is what's going to be a change, even if it's just you or your family, like that intentionality of your pursuit with Christ. It was for those weeks in the summertime that you talked about back when you were a freshman. And then you came back to life, and the monotony of the daily living is when it does get monotony. But that's, you've pursued beyond that now, and that is going to be a game changer for sure. That's so cool.
Yeah. Love that. Brooke, how are you different in your faith today than you were as a freshman?
I think, like you were talking about with COVID earlier, like when COVID hit, I feel like that was when I got the time. Like normally time management is like my biggest thing. Like I just never have time to do anything.
And for reference, you were 8th graders when COVID hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so like going into freshman year, I had all this time where I was like, I'm going to read my Bible every day, and I have all this time to connect with God. And then it was like I went back to school, and it was like I started struggling with my friendships and like finding my people. And it was like, now I'm not feeling so great. Like I don't know what's happening. So I think it was like last year going into this year, I started finding my people, and I started like reconnecting with God a lot more, and it's just gotten so much better. And I feel like now I've learned how to like understand so many more concepts, where it was like before I just kind of was surface level, and now I'm able to understand a lot more and learn more.
Yeah. It's almost like you were in a fog for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like COVID just created a fog for
Yeah.
everybody. I feel like we were all like, hey, since we have this time, let's be more intentional with God, more intentional with our families. And then it was like, I'm just scrolling TikTok and watching Tiger King and like, well, I wasted that time away. Good work.
Yeah.
Cool. This was super good. Thank you guys for being on here.
Heck yeah. Thanks for inviting us.
And we will definitely have a part 2, different topic, but part 2 with these girls. So be sure to look for that. Tune in. We will have it coming soon. Stacy, do you have any parting thoughts?
So proud of you girls. It's so cool to see them processing where they have been and where they are. And I shared with the group of girls that I worked with last week, senior girls, that really as you head off to college, it starts all over again. It's like the same process you went through in kindergarten and in junior high and high school with friendships and figuring yourself out. You'll do that again as you walk through the college years of figuring out who your friends are and what your identity looks like and who you are in Christ. You're still refining, and you'll do it again as you become a mommy someday and you step into marriage and a job, and you just continue to learn more about yourself and more about Christ throughout that entire process. And that the pursuant piece of it is what truly makes or breaks the relationship.
Yeah.
So I'm so proud of you both.
Cool. Good work. Thanks for listening. We will catch you guys next time. Bye.